Dudes, look at that mountain. The wind sound is not dubbed. Like everything in TMP, it's genuine. You're getting ready to watch a Nutnfancy motorcycle review, a vehicle that gets you to places like this. Faster, quicker, funner, sometimes easier than a four-wheeled vehicle. First up, let's look where we are. It just amazes me you can get to this place on a motorcycle, i.e. the roads are open for street legal motorcycles. You have to be street legal to come here on this road that kind of winds around the mountain I'm pointing towards right now. It's a fun ride. I've been here many times. I've shown it on camera a couple times. Last episode of KTM was filmed pretty close to here. But first up, look at that mountain, dudes. Look at this. Look at that meadow right there. Wouldn't that be fun to camp right there? That won't be accessible by motorcycle. Maybe by backpack, but dudes, you are going to be working so hard. Your vertical climb to get there, insane. Let me just pan down here. We'll get to the bike. Trust me, I just am amazed and I want to share the beauty up here. Look at that right there, that area. How fun would it be to just go down there and play? Camp, chill out, cook, bring your dog. That's kind of a disadvantage to motorcycling. I can't bring dogness with me. But what you get in return is pretty cool. Currently, I'm all alone right here. We may have some visitors as the review progresses. And man, do we have an awesome bike to talk about. Perhaps my favorite overall motorcycle of all the ones I've driven. That's right, I said it. So if you're thinking about buying a motorcycle, you like coming to places like this, you think that perhaps you might go adventuring on your motorcycle, on Jeep roads, Jeep trails, dirt biking. You want to do road biking as well? Consider, if you will, the KTM 690 Enduro R. This is a Nutnfancy review. I'm going to hide right here where the wind is minimized. Every time I do one of these reviews, I don't know what it is. The wind just starts whipping. I was driving up here and there was nothing. It's like, oh, it's going to be perfect. Not so much. Now again, my reviews are completely different from everything else you see online. It's a feature-length review. I'm going to go through the bike, all the things that are important to me, probably important to you as well, and I have a lot of experience on the motorcycles I review. I'm not going to be doing a lot of motor reviews, just a few select ones which I think are the best in the world. Back to what you're looking for. If you're looking for adventure like this, does it get any better? I mean, when you drive by on a motorcycle like this, loaded like this, and by the way, this is a working bike in the Nutnfancy project. Its job is not just to go have fun, it's to haul gear to get tested into wilderness places. It's a working vehicle. Yeah, it's fun getting there, but it's got to earn its keep. The reason I tell you that is because it's loaded up right now with a 9mm pistol, ammunition, 2 knives, and an axe, and survival gear and a Rotopax 1 gallon. So when you drive by and guys see this, anybody who loves adventuring immediately starts daydreaming. They're like, dude, I wish I was that guy. I wish I was going where he's going. I gotta go to work. Yeah, like that. The KTM, and by the way, this is a 2014 Enduro R, 690 Enduro R. It is, in a lot of people's minds, the perfect bike to own, and I'm in total agreement with that. Yes, I love super sports, street bikes, sport touring bikes, real dirt bikes. This is not a dedicated dirt bike per se. In some people's minds it is. It really isn't. It's a little bit heavy, but it is dual sport in nature. That means it's completely street legal, has functioning turn signals which are visible to motorists, which might save your life, by the way. It is probably the best dual sport motorcycle in the world, the KTM 690 Enduro R. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, just consider the ride I did today to get here. All told, I will have traveled about 140 miles on the bike today. I didn't offload it from a pickup truck. And I honestly am not attracted to bikes like that. And I've driven dirt bikes. You've seen them on camera. Maybe I'll roll in some footage. I love them too. Usually I'm gravitating towards the enduros, the dual sporters, because I like riding the bike to get there. It's hard on the knobbies. Yes, you go through tires. We know that. But it's fun. It's more adventurous. And honestly, it's less work too. Because if you're running a pure non-street legal dirt bike, can you load it up like this? Yeah, there's guys that do it, but the lighter the bike, the less cargo capacity it can carry. We'll talk about that. You know, I think it's more of a hassle. I gotta load it up on the truck, drive the truck, find a place to park it, then offload the bike, then run my smoker bike, the two-stroker. Yeah, you can do it. Guys do it all the time. I like the dual sport. And the beauty of the 690 Enduro R is that it is just as good on the street as it is in places like this. You're not giving up that much. Yeah, you're going to be making some compromises. Yes, there are downsides, dudes. I'm going to cover them here. You're always going to be making compromises on whatever motorcycle you decide on. However, if you dream about coming to places like this and running on the streets, you need to seriously consider the KTM 690 Enduro R. Now, a TMPer asked me the other day, hey dude, should I get this bike or the KTM 500 EXC? Let me answer that question super quick before I forget. This bike. I love the KTM 500 EXC. I have lots of miles on it. I've driven it in places like this, out in the desert. The Mustang ride comes to mind. That's a video out there. Tactical Doodle and myself ran on. Very capable bike. The 500, however, has a very small oil capacity. It is a high maintenance motor. You're going to be working on the bike a lot. The mean time between service intervals is short. It is lightweight, it is more dirt oriented, it is more capable in true off-road situations, the 500. However, if you're going to be going longer distances, you want to carry things like that. You don't want to be dinking around with your motor all the time, changing oil all the time. Get the Enduro, 690 Enduro R. There's your answer. I mean, the 500, as you've seen on camera, is an amazing bike. It's super fun in the motard configuration we have it in currently. Love it. However, I think overall for a lot of people, not everyone, this is a better choice. The only asterisk I would say to that, and we may mention this again in ergos, is if you're a smaller dudette, maybe the 500 would be better. It's going to be a lighter bike, easier for you to manage. The weight on this bike dry is 306 pounds. And that actually is pretty light for what the bike can do. So we need to jump into the details, but that's my short, down and dirty answer between the two bikes for dual purpose riding, mountains, desert, street. I think the KTM 690 Enduro R is the better choice. By the way, as I go along here, I'm not going to be spouting the talking points of the manufacturer. So when media professionals get together in the motorcycle industry, actually every industry, they'll hand out talking points, and said media professional will go back to their blog, their channel, whatever, and they'll use them. And that's their video, sprinkled with their own perceptions of the bike. I dig a little bit deeper. That's what you're gonna get in this feature length video. And we got a lot to talk about. So if you're looking for an 8-minute video, I'm sorry, this ain't it. You can probably find one on the type, but if you want interesting stuff, you're in the right place. Here's something I want you to consider about KTM. And there's a lot of great motorcycles. I'm not myopic on any brand. Not KTM, not Suzuki, not Yamaha, not Kawasaki, not Ducati. I think guys who've been watching the project know that. But KTM means business when it comes to dirt riding. I mean that. The pedigree of almost every dual sport and definitely dirt bike they make is racing. a racing heritage that shows in how the motor runs, how fast they are, how light and nimble, and how they handle. Underneath the KTM 690 Enduro R is a race bike. Says me, that's the way it feels. It feels light, it seems fast, handles awesome. It's a race bike. Can you say that about a lot of other dual sport motorcycles? Well, I've ridden a few and I will say you can't. One that comes to mind that I owned was a Honda XR 650L. That thing was a tractor. I hated it. Now some guys say, well, how about the KLR? I love that bike. It's great for the money. But you're really talking about two different machines. For instance, a KLR versus this. Speed, nimbleness, it's just a whole different world. You can put money in that KLR, you can make it so much better, so much more capability, and guys do it all the time. But this bike, the 690 Enduro, out of box, ready to rock and roll. I'm going to talk about my mods too, and there's a number of them which are important to me. You've seen some of them already as I'm walking around the bike, but it means business out of box, and that goes for most KTMs. They race, they put a lot of money and development into their motorcycles, and they upgrade them almost every year. Think about that. There's a lot of manufacturers that don't do it. They'll come out with something back in 1997 and there it sits, technology-wise. Honda comes to mind. Suzuki does that. Maybe they upgraded it in 2000, 15 years ago. No, KTM every year will change something on this bike. So this is a 2014, they upgraded it from 2013. So it costs some money to do that, but good on them. They just, I don't know, keep improving. I love it. Let's talk about philosophy of use. And I think we've kind of already launched into it, haven't we? Sorry for the wind, by the way. It is what it is. To get to places like this is this bike's primary philosophy of use, wouldn't you say? I mean, there's a lot of other vehicles that can get us here. I mean, I just saw a Jeep a little while ago. You don't need a motorcycle to come up here, but it's funner and dang is it economical. And I can go places where that, you know, Jeep can't. Over here, a couple years back, there's some trails that wind through here, go up and around the mountains for miles and miles. It's very technical riding. This bike could do it. You're gonna have to be a skilled dirt rider to do it because it's single track with steep drop-offs along the way. But the philosophy of use primarily is a wilderness motorcycle. That's what I'll call it. I kind of mentioned already though, it does it all. So even if you never get off-road, you never do a Jeep trail, you never do a single track, you never come up here, this is still a great motorcycle. That's the kicker. You can run around with this on the street all day long and you will love it. It's fast, it's nimble, fun to ride. It will dominate most traffic. In fact, a lot of motorcycles. I know, because I've raced a few. Not all, some I've beat. I would also call it a light adventure bike. Now, maybe some viewers are considering this versus a KTM 1190, maybe another full-size adventure bike. Consider this, how much stuff do you need to carry? Remember when I said at the first part of this video, the lighter the bike, the less it can carry? That is a true statement. I mean, there's guys that have gone around the world, and by the way, that's a totally separate philosophy of use on the 690. They've gone around the world on these bikes, successfully. They'll mount up more gear on it. They'll put pannier racks on it. It will work. I don't think it's ideally suited for that. I'd rather be running an 1190. If I'm doing thousands and thousands of miles, I need to take a lot of stuff. I'd rather have a 1200 GS, an 1190, maybe a V-Strom, something that can take more cargo. I think of this as a light adventure bike that's very capable in dirt. For one thing, it has 11 inches of clearance. That's pretty awesome. The suspension is pretty excellent as well. 9.8 inches of travel in both the front and the rear. Remember that racing heritage? That's where it's showing up, in the suspension and the motor. Philosophy of use, commuter bike. What? Hey man, I was thinking about getting a, what do they call that? The Honda NC 700, NSX 700, whatever it is. I'm sure it's a cool bike. Dude, even if I never went off-road, I would still get this bike. I mean, it makes a statement of rugged individualism, don't you think? Even if it's not mounted up with gear and an extra gas tank in the back. People like it. I mean, I'll drive a lot of other bikes around and they are invisible. When you drive this bike, there are a lot of guys that like it. I think in their minds, they want to go get a bike like this. They want to come to places like this, like I said at the outset. Huge fun factor, great looks, by the way. I love the graphics on the 2014 690 Enduro R. KTM upgrades those as the years go by. This will change. They usually get it right. Philosophy of use, I'm going to leave for now. I did mention, by the way, ROTW, Round the World Motorcycle. Again, there's lots of vlogs, forums, postings that you can look up of guys that have done that. I'm super impressed what they've done with it. I got to press so. Let's talk about this, SAWC and cargo capability. Remember, light adventure bike. It can't carry everything I need all the time. It has carried, however, a 35-pound steel Evil Roy target on the back. Here's a photo. In fact, that's pretty frequent with this bike. It'll haul those steel plates to and fro in the desert for shooting purposes, testing and review. Not to mention ammunition and guns. The cockpit, though, gets pretty cramped when I have it loaded up. You can see my sitting area right there. It's a lot more comfortable on an 1190 Adventure, also by KTM. And for that matter, other adventure bikes like the excellent BMW 1200 GS. That's kind of a downside for a bike that weighs 306 pounds dry, that is very dirt capable, that has 9.8 inches of fork travel, front and rear, 11 inches of ground clearance. That's the price you pay. Remember those compromises? There's one of them. You want more room? You're going to have a bigger bike. I'll tell you though, coming up this road today, it was rocky. And I was kind of glad I was not on a 700-pound loaded up 1190. This is a lot easier bike for me to wrangle up the hill. It is a single cylinder thumper. It does have a balancer shaft on it though, so that makes it lightweight. And we'll talk about the engine kind of separately. This, by the way, we're kind of jumping ahead to accessories in a way, but we're talking about SAWC, cargo capability. That is a downside of the bike. Not in the terms I just expressed, but there's really no place to strap on cargo as it comes out of box. You're going to have to either put a rack on it, a pannier rack, a rear rack, which I have, or a seat bag. I think that is the Wolfman Beta Plus duffel. Yeah, it's a good duffel. I generally don't like running duffels because dust gets caught under here in the desert and just abrades everything. That's why I have it all taped up, because it will just abrade. It's like sandpaper when dust gets under it. It will just ruin all your plastics. It'll abrade your seat, and it's impossible to keep it out from under that tank or that seat bag. It just won't happen. I blew it off before I came here with compressed air. That's why it's clean. You're going to have to get a cargo system to carry stuff on your 690. That's why I'm saying this. But in return, you get a light, fast bike, and that takes us to power, speed, and gearing. LC4 motor, putting out at the crank 67 horsepower. It is, of course, fuel injected, and again, it has that balancer shaft in it, so it's pretty damn smooth. I love the motor. It dominates that 650 Honda I had, and I've raced friends that have 650s, 500s, and they can't even keep up. Not even close. I have changed a few things on this engine. You do not have to do that, however, on your 690 Enduro R. Out of box, it will be plenty fast for you, but me, I like it faster. Sorry, that's just how I am. I will modify a bike to make it lighter and faster whenever possible. And I did it with this bike as well. First up, on this side is a wings muffler. The stock muffler on this thing weighs 10 pounds, 9 ounces. So by putting this on, I save about 5 pounds. Maybe more, I forget the weight on this, but it's much lighter. And there's another reason I had to put it on. I went with an Evo 1 kit and an open map. This is from KTM. I'll try to find a few pictures for you. What it is a screened pre-filter for the filter, and I'm running a K&N air filter number 6908. That's about $65. And then the dealer put on the open map, although I think it's user selectable under the seat there. You can change your maps. There's 3 maps to select from on your 690 Enduro R. So with the muffler, with the Evo 1 kit, which allows more oxygen to come into the bike, especially important here at high elevation. We're at about 8,500 feet elevation here. That's kind of why I had to do the mods, to keep the bike breathing well. So it lightened the bike up, made it faster, made it more responsive, and actually that Evo 1 kit makes it sound nicer. It's kind of throaty because you can hear the air sucking in under the seat. Some guys may not like it. They'll go, I don't like that. Yeah, I love it. How about the gearing? Haven't changed it. Haven't touched it. Still running the stock sprockets on the 690 Enduro R. I can't say as much for a lot of other KTMs that I've ran. I've ran a 350 EXC-F, a 500 EXC, and I've changed the sprockets on both of those motorcycles. And in case you're wondering, we don't own this. So maybe one day we will, but not yet. Primary gear is 3679. Actually, forget that. I'm not going to go through all the technical specifications. That's stupid. The throttle is not a cable. It's ride by wire, and I love it. Smooth transitions, no lurching, just works. I've had 0 problems with this in about a year and a half of riding, off and on. Even though it's a thumper, technically, that is a single cylinder motorcycle, I think the vibration on the bike is acceptable. It's not as smooth as a V-twin by any means, especially with knobby tires on it. You will get some hop, you will get some vibration. Welcome to the world of dirt biking. It's just the way it is. The tire on the back, and we'll talk about that here in a second, does help, but I think overall with a balancing shaft, it is a smooth, definitely fast motorcycle. I can wheelie in first, second, probably third gear. I get scared, and I don't wheelie that much because I suck at them. Speed is not an issue with this bike though. It is not. And that will take us to range, actually. Going fast is fun, but when you come out to a place like this, I mean, you're gonna have to have some MPGs getting you there and back, right? I will say out of box, and this is from experience prior to the modifications with the Evo 1 kit, the muffler, and the map change, I was getting 50 miles a gallon, which is pretty smoking for such a quick bike, capable bike. After the mods, I'm pulling down around 45-ish, maybe 47 if I'm really easy on the throttle. Okay, the tank, and this is a disadvantage of the KTM 690 Enduro R, is smallish, only 3.1 gallons. Actually, we'll call it 3.2. And the tank, guys, if you're not familiar, is not right here. That is not it. The bike has no rear subframe. Instead, it uses the structure of this black polypropylene tank. That's it. That's the gas tank. For balance, KTM went with that. So they wanted to put more weight over the rear seat. This is the fuel tank right here. See? Check that. Very elegant design. It's cool. We like it. However, it doesn't give you a ton of range. With no mods, you'll get about 150 miles. You guessed it. That's why I'm running Rotopacks on the back. Now, I might as well say it here. There are mods that you can change to give this a safari tank. I haven't done it, and I do not have any plans on doing it. A safari tank would straddle the front portion of the bike right here, and it would give you, I think, 3.7 extra gallons, and you would have this rear tank with a safari tank made by Rally Raid and also Safari Tanks USA, they make them. You'd have a ton of range with your 690 if you did that. The downsides are several. One, it looks goofy in my opinion. I love the graphics. I like the plastics that the 690 has right here. I don't want to change them. Okay, that's the main reason. Also, I don't want to spend the money. You're looking at about $750 to $1,000 to put a safari tank on a 690R. That's a lot of money. And it will create a lot of interferences right here. Let me come over here in the wind shadow. I do have a Scott steering stabilizer on there. I love it. It is mandatory in this stuff. And the bracket on the Safari tank would get in the way. And not to mention the tank bag and other things that I've done to the bike. So it just won't work. So what do? I run a Rotopax. About 150 miles, you're gonna be running out of gas and you're gonna have to gas up. That's still pretty decent range. I had to put on a larger tank on the 500 EXC to get that. I had to put on a larger fuel tank on the 500 EXC to get that range. So the 500 EXC now does 150 miles, but it did not come that way out of box. We did have to put a tank on that one. I'll give the range therefore a B, because of the design of the fuel tank. But from what I've said already, you figured it out. This is a motorcycle that lives in two worlds. This world, mountains, desert, dirt, and in a street environment. And I have separate videos showing how the bike maneuvers there. Go to the B channel, by the way, and I have one blasting through a canyon that's really fun. I'll be rolling in some of that footage in this video. Two worlds, each one has its own requirements. Let's first talk about street riding, the KTM Enduro R, 690 Enduro R. Because maybe you're looking at it and you're going, man, I just don't know if that would be good on the street. How does it handle? You know, I want a bike that's really nimble. Let me just break it down for you. If you are of medium height or taller, you will love how this handles on the street. You will love it. If you're a shorter person, like I mentioned at the outset of this review, you want to throw a leg over the Enduro R because it does stand high for that dirt world, for the mountain world. It has to have that 11-inch ground clearance, the almost 10 inches of fork travel, rear suspension travel. That's one of those compromises, dudes. You can't get away from that. God, the wind, sorry. I mean, throw a leg over it, see if it works for you. But if you're short, maybe look at a different bike. But I would say 6 foot and higher, you won't have any problems at all. That's kind of an ergonomic consideration, but in a way it's kind of a suspension thing too, because they're kind of tied together. As far as handling goes, look at the frame. I love how it's exposed, by the way, and painted orange. That is a chrome moly orange tube space frame, very torsion resistant, die cast swing arm. Together they give you excellent maneuverability. I'm talking canyons, street, Jeep trails. This thing is like a fighter jet. That's how I think of it. It's like an F-16 in maneuverability. Now granted, you're going to need some technique as you go around the canyon on this thing. What I do is I throw my weight to the 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock position. I weight the inner peg, and that just sends the bike right around the corner. It rails. Amazing. I'm amazed how well it corners. Then when you get to the dirt, you have that, I think, WP suspension 4860, there's a technical term for you, front fork. WP suspension 4618 with pro lever, if you care about such things. Rear shock, mono shock, there it is right there. Lots of give in the dirt and the rocks, and I come across plenty. In fact, this is the only motorcycle so far, maybe the 500 too, where I have not bent a rim yet. And I run high pressures in them because of the rocks we have here. I'll roll in some photographs or video or something to remind you where we run. The rims themselves, tough, that I've seen so far, subject to change. Suspension soaks up a lot of bumps. It's adjustable for compression, damping, all the normal adjustments you would have on a dirt motorcycle. There's your top adjustments right there. I haven't really done much with the suspension. I probably ought to adjust the sag because I carry weight on this thing so frequently. I'll leave it at that though. The thing freaking rails on the dirt and on the pavement. Ergos overall. I'll give, and I'm giving letter grades, I guess, in this review. I'll give the Ergonomics a minus. A minus because it is a tall bike, I'm giving the minus, and then the cargo problem that we talked about encroaches on your cockpit space right here. Renthal aluminum bars, they are very wide, they're comfortable, and I do have the Scott stabilizer on it. It raised them up a little bit. Standing on the motorcycle when you're running down the road is a dream. Probably my overall favorite motorcycle to be on when I'm standing and riding. The pegs as they come out of box are good. However, I put on the KTM rally pegs on it because I do stand a lot, and it helps dry you out when it's hot and sweaty. Not so much today since it's so freaking windy, but highly recommended. They're worth the money. And there's some other aftermarket pegs. I just go with the KTM rally pegs. They're cost effective. They give you a wider platform. The normal peg comes to about right here, right there. Ergonomics though, seat is perfect. I did not have to upgrade that, unlike the KTM 500 EXC and 350 EXCF, on which I put seat concept seats. One of those bikes is long gone. The 500 is still hanging around. I didn't have to do anything with the seat. It's comfortable, amazingly actually. There is, however, in its stock configuration, no wind protection, speaking of the wind. And so I repurposed this thing from my old Honda XR650. Yeah, it works pretty good. It's an old National Cycle windscreen. It does have to attach and take up space on your bars, but it works. It's a great way to get the wind off your chest. You can go into a tuck to get it off your head on a long drive. Coming back from Wyoming, I like that. So I actually love this. Some guys will say, hey, why didn't you put the Rally Raid, I think it's the car conversion, on your 690? Here's the real answer. I don't like the looks of them. I'm not after a Dakar look bike. I'm after functionality. First cool. That's why. It's expensive. I don't like the looks. I can't adjust that windscreen on the Dakar conversion. And it kind of gets into its whole proprietary thing. When you go with a Rally Raid system, you lose all the plastics of KTM. You got to use their stuff. Once you commit to it, you got to kind of go full bore, and it's really expensive. I just don't see a need. I'm super happy with the way I've got this configured. I'd do it all over again. And that takes us to brakes. They're excellent, dudes. Brembo's waved brake discs, as you can see there. 2 piston in the front, 300 millimeter front, 240 in the rear. ABS full time. You can always tell an ABS bike because it has this ABS ring on it right here. See that? The tooth ring? That is a huge plus of this bike, the KTM 690 Enduro R, having ABS. Some guys say, hey, can you turn that off? If you can, I haven't figured out how to, and nor would I. I love the ABS, and coming through, I can't really show you, so I'll have to roll in footage. The really rocky, loose stuff, you know, sometimes you just screw up and you put on your brakes too much. ABS can save a spill. I love ABS. On the street, it's important. When it's wet, you might come across a slick surface. It could save your life. I will always take an ABS equipped bike whenever I possibly can. I will give a total A to the brakes on the KTM 690 Enduro R. Tires. This is a stock one that came with it. It is a Pirelli, what is it, MT21. I'm running just a knobby here. You can see the wear and tear on it. It's getting down there. It's probably time to be thinking about replacing it in the not too distant future. This is not stock. This is a Pirelli Scorpion AT, and I love it. The size is 140, 80, 18 in the back. I'm sorry, Pirelli MT90. It is not the best dirt tire. This is not something I would go run a dirt race on. It wouldn't be something I would take to Moab. But for what I'm doing here, perfect. You know, like 70% road, 30% this. This is a perfect tire. Eventually, I'll put it on the front. You know, I do like having knobbies on the front because it steers better in the loose stuff. And the other stuff, you guys can look up the tires. I mean, you guys running dirt bikes, you know how it is. You just go through tires. This seems to be lasting good though. The Pirelli MT90 Scorpion. I love it. Highly recommended if they make it for your motorcycle if you don't have a 690. Lighting. I'll give that a D on the KTM 690 Enduro R. Yes, I did upgrade that bulb. Yeah, and it still sucks. It throws a weak pattern, and I would really like to put on that Baja Design Squadron Pro LED on this bike as well with a fork mount. I'm gonna have to custom fabricate it if I want it. And there's not a lot of places to mount things, by the way. Speaking of downsides on the 690 Enduro, it is a dirt bike at heart. That means you don't have any under seat space. You don't have any space at all that's wasted. So I cannot put in a Blue Sea Fuse distribution box. like you've seen before on my other motos. Can't do it. There's no room. I might, you know, one day go with a solid state one, but there's really not even room for that there. I wish the headlight was a lot better. One of these days they'll just run all motorcycles pure LED lighting. I can't wait. They need to upgrade that. And the horn. The horns on all motorcycles absolutely suck. Where's the little horn on this? There it is, right there. Yeah, they're substandard. So are the turn signals, by the way. Not in their function. I like how they're mounted on the post. They're visible to motorists, like I said at the outset. I really love that. However, hey KTM, why don't you O-ring gasket your turn signals, man? This is a dirt bike. You can be doing stream crossings in the rain, and yet they don't. You can get water in your lenses. Been there, done it. My solution is to wrap helicopter tape around the periphery. See that? I buy it off Amazon, link in the bottom if you want it. Designed for leading edges of helicopter rotor blades. It's pretty awesome. It's an easy enough fix, but I love the turn signals position. They are durable. I have wiped out on other KTMs, not so much this one, and they've been pretty durable. I have snapped one off on the 500 when it fell off a trailer. One thing I love about KTM that is really cool is the parts are pretty affordable. The plastics are pretty affordable. The turn signals aren't outlandishly priced. For an Austrian produced motorcycle, kind of surprising, really. I mean, lighting though, overall, I'll have to give a D. That takes us to reliability, quality, and maintenance. Let's start with quality. Overall, I'll say the bike's quality is excellent. Smithers, really good. I mean, the fasteners, for instance, look at this. Compare this to a Japanese bike. They're like coated and they're star fasteners. I love KTM fasteners. Excellent. The paint is excellent. The plastics are cool looking. They're durable. They got great graphics that don't peel off. I mean, the Japanese motorcycles have that too, sometimes. I like the paint scheme. I like the color scheme. I would say quality overall, pretty excellent from what I've seen. Durability, I think, is pretty excellent. Again, if you really want to know, you can go and look at those ride reports from dudes that have taken around the world on a KTM 690 Enduro, various year models. They've had problems with them. I mean, anytime you take a motorcycle in that type of driving, it's going to break down. Things are going to go south. And it just happens. And these guys have to be good at fixing them on their own. And I'm amazed at how they do it. But reliability has been superb. I've had no issues at all. I really like the oil capacity, which is 1.7 quarts with a filter change. That means I have to change it less often. You know, 10W50 is a oil I run. Some guys will run something different depending on the temperature. But your mean time between teardowns, I think, is pretty high. I had it written down here somewhere. 10,000 kilometers is what the book says, I think. Don't hold me to that. Is it as good as the Japanese bikes? Reliability? I would say yeah. Maybe in some cases better from what I've seen. Again, I'm still learning, man. It's a long haul with this bike and we'll see what happens. But I would not take a bike out to a place like this if I didn't trust it. You know, I don't want to break down out here. I'm alone. There ain't no other riding. There's no riding partner with me today. I love it. I desmogged this one, by the way. Got rid of the canister under the seat. That gave me a small amount of room. There's kits online you can look up if you're interested. The oil changes are pretty easy. Filters are around $9. You can look that up. Buy a pair of snap ring pliers to take that funky KTM filter out. And while we're here on this side, I want to show you this. Talking about quality, one thing I'll ding on the KTM 690 Enduro R is the rear brake lever. It sucks. Made out of like tin cans. It bent inwards and scraped my engine case. Had to go out and spring for a $165 Slavens CNC milled unit. That's what you're looking at right there. The problem with that, if you don't bike, is if you fall down and that crunches into here, you could, like, you know, damage your engine case, lose oil, and have other problems. Kind of a big deal. Reliability is awesome. And we're getting ready to wrap it up. Mods. A lot of them I've talked about already. Did you guys see this one? Some neoprene boots on the forks, under the fork protectors. The inverted forks, by the way. That's one mod I did. Do you need to do that? No, the fork protectors work pretty good, but sometimes I'll go with dudes and they're throwing up a lot of dust, grit, and I'm just doing my best to maintain the bike. One you may not have seen, you can see the wiring right here, is a 12-volt electrical socket for running cell phones, GPS units, charging stuff, and this is how I mounted it on the fork tube. I think these are 48mm forks, by the way. I think so, yeah, they are 48mm outer tube. Notice that tape is under my zip ties here, so I don't scratch my tube up in case I resell this thing. That's handy. That's the best place I could find it. I don't have room on the bars up here. Yeah. The downside of this, and this is a big downside, is because I don't have that fuse box under the seat that comes on with key power, anything plugged into this, and also, yes, a radar detector on a ram mount. Yeah, I haul on this bike occasionally. If you leave those accessories on, you're looking at a dead battery. Speaking of which, I had that today when I started. I left the radar detector on and it was dead as a doornail. Had to spend 45 minutes putting a new battery in it. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Accessories. And by the way, I ram mount my iPhone here. This holder held the phone all the way up. A very bumpy ride coming up the mountains today, so it works great. Radar detector, absolute necessity. That, by the way, is a Whistler CR85. The 90 is better. Amazon link in the bottom, highly recommended. The CR90 actually has GPS for just a few bucks more. It's a good high value radar detector. If someone ends up stealing it, you know, it's not the end of the world like a freaking escort unit or something. How about this? The Scott's steering stabilizer. I really debated putting one of these on, but after doing some long desert rides, hitting the bumps, hitting the rocks, I pretty much figured it's mandatory. I have to have it on the bike. They're expensive and they're kind of heavy. 3 pounds, 5 ounces in this version for the KTM 690 Enduro R. Now KTM does make a steering stabilizer. I considered it. I just didn't like its quality level. I didn't like how it mounted. And I've had experience with Scott's. I just went with it. Mounted it myself and it was a complete hassle to put on. Yeah, they always are. And if you're not familiar, what it does is if you're going down a bumpy Jeep trail, dirt track, single track, and your bars are going back and forth, this is an oil dampener. And so it allows your bars to stay pretty much straight, and it doesn't allow your wrist to get popped all the time, because you can get just slapped around, and on a long ride, you'll come away just sore. Or worse, you could wreck. When you're going high speed in the desert, which I've done a lot on this bike, I'm talking like 80 miles an hour, it's really important. It just makes that whole front end more stable. The Scott steering stabilizer. Obviously, I have a Service guards on it. Cost effective. Link in the bottom if you want them for your bike. I think I got these from Amazon as well. I love them. They're good. Mandatory to prevent breaking these and stranding you. I do have extra levers down here somewhere, I think. Obviously, I have a rack on the back, and the rack on this is, I wrote it down, a Nomad rack. It was only $99. I like how it attaches. However, the bolts here can come loose. You're gonna have to tighten them frequently and Loctite them. I have not put in the tank bolts on this 690R, in case you're wondering, KTM guys. I just haven't had a need. I'm not carrying that much weight out here, and I haven't had a problem yet. Now, you can put a different cargo rack on your 690. Freaking wind. Touratech makes that pannier rack. It's stainless steel. It's pretty excellent. It's about $400, and it adds a lot of weight to the back. I kind of wish I had it on because I could carry more cargo for reviewing, and I would open up that cockpit space more. Then you could run a giant loop bag, having this area right here to loop over, and that pannier rack comes out here so you're not touching your muffler. So consider that. I like the system right now. Rotor packs, of course, on the back. I could run a top box if I wanted, but I need the fuel can. Accessories. RG frame sliders. What? On a dirt bike? Yeah, dude, it protects all of this. And I have dumped it. Look. See the scrapes on it? I'd much rather scrape this than all of that. because I don't care if that gets scraped up. If I bung all that up, I want to replace it. It bothers me having a scratched up bike. Hey, but it's a dirt bike. It's supposed to be scratched up. I get you, and a lot of our bikes are. I take care of it as best I can, especially for resale, right? I do need a shark fin back here. I don't think any good shark fins are made for the KTM 690 Enduro R yet. I told you I need that Squadron Pro LED on it. Maybe one day I'll mount that. That is a KTM brand tank bag. Pretty good. Only about 115 bucks, maybe less. Highly recommended. I did modify it, however, because on this bike in the seat configuration, it was very loose. It was popping up all the time. So I'll see if I can find the picture. I actually riveted it so I can't unzip it anymore. I riveted it and glued it so it has a very stable base. And also I put a 1/4 inch oak plywood bottom on it. That way it can lock down. It's not really cinched up right now. Down in the seat and it's stable. Let's take a look in it real quick, what's in there. For TMPers who want to know. Leatherman, my EDC kit, look at that video. Glove, Kel-Tec PF9. Some more glasses and other stuff. Oh, there's an iPod right there. It's not rocking it out right now. That's it for accessories. I told you about the radar detector, the mounts. Oh yeah, the aquarium thermometer I put on pretty much every bike I got. Off eBay is where I got that. Oh, and the mirrors. Those are not stock KTM mirrors. The ones that came on it were fine. I broke them, laid the bike over. One snapped off, the other one I still have. I got these off eBay. I do recommend them. I will try to put the link in the bottom. Tell them Nutnfancy sent you. If you're wondering, I don't like double take mirrors. I freaking hate them. I've ran them on this bike. They don't stay in position. They're hard to adjust. The rubber balls disintegrate. They're spinning loose all the time. I hate double take mirrors. I think they're a ripoff. I'd much rather go with these. They're articulated. They can fold out of the way if and when you want to do some serious dirt riding. I keep them out though, because you know there's always someone up here on these roads. You always think you're the fastest. You might not be. There might be someone smoking up behind you. Oh, I almost forgot. Instrumentation. Pretty basic on the KTM 690. I kind of wish they had a TFT screen. That would be pretty excellent. You do have trip information, trip 1, trip 2. You do have a gear indicator, so that's a bonus. I guess I should turn it on right here. And that's about it. I like the looks of it. It's analog. There we go. Quick look-see. Oh, did you see that 2205? I love that. There's your gear indicator. It's small, but at least you got one. The 2205 is really excellent, and every manufacturer should do this. That is your tire size that you can input to change and make your speedometer more accurate. Thank you, KTM. Every manufacturer should do that. So you can just measure your tires you're running, change it. I'm within about a mile per hour now, GPS measured. I gotta go. I've covered a lot of ground. That's wrapping up accessories, and there's a lot to it. I will modify every bike I have for this mission, for coming out to places like this, for epic mountain riding, epic desert riding. You know, like the steering stabilizer, the hand guards, the pegs. You know, those things are pretty much mandatory. Some of my accessories maybe go into the realm of, well, not totally necessary, like the radar detector. Do I need a radar detector? I don't need it. It's nice to have. It's better than a $500 ticket. Yeah, I get on it once in a while. If you're wondering what the top speed of this unit is, I would say around 120, 115. I can't really remember how fast I've had it. I mean, I've gotten it up there, but with a knobby front end, I don't really want to be going that fast. You know, but it will go and go and go. The KTM 500 EXC will push about, speed-wise, 108 miles an hour. I think I've had it too. I know, that thing flies, and it's only a 245-pound bike. So there you have it. KTM 690 Enduro R. Even though it has some faults, likability scale, 10 out of 10. Value, worth it. It's not super inexpensive. You're gonna be looking at about $10,500 for a new one. And by the way, good luck finding one. They already sell like crazy. I mean, the dealer, Edge Motorsports in Draper, Utah, every time I go in, they're gone. Hey, did you get any 690s in? I just asked for the heck of it to, you know, keep track of what's going on. Yeah, we got 2 in last week. They sold within a day. This is a hot selling bike. The word is out on this bike. People know about it. It is a can-do everything motorcycle, you know? Like this says, shoot your freaking video game, get out and live, dude. Like this. This to me is living, and this is a vehicle that takes me here. That's a KTM 690 Enduro R. Nutnfancy review. See you later. Wanted to share this with you guys. It's so beautiful. All alone in the desert mountains. Sunset. God, I just love it. It's so cool. KTM 690. Good testing. And listening to John Denver, A Perfect Song.